Because he's not zoomed in yet.
Because he's not zoomed in yet. Kelly, as you may know, has done the coast to coast, I think 17 times. He's just about to do it his 18th time. So he's going to be zooming in from somewhere on the coast. Do we have, so somebody would like to move? Moved by Tim, seconded by Jackie. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. Any declarations of interest today? Right, no, thank you very much.
Tim moved to second.
Jackie. Yeah, that's agreed.
And that was apologies.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Do we have any additions or deletions for the minutes? Any changes? No changes. All right. Would someone like to move confirmation of those minutes? Moved by Greg, seconded by Jackie. All right. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. All right. Thank you very much. So the next item is we have two people who come for a public forum. The public forum is a 5-minute slot, including questions that allows people to just come in and talk about the practical matters that they would like to draw the board's attention to. We have two today. I'd like to invite Claire McConchie from Wilson. She'd like to join us at the table. You've got 5 minutes, including questions.
Okay, tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Claire McConchie. I've come before you all to talk about Woolston. Currently in Woolston, there are several issues going on causing daily distress to many residents and the business owners. The main issues are a group of fake homeless being driven into our community daily by a known criminal here in Christchurch. These people are under housing utahi. We also have various kāinga ora homes and residents, more than one, causing immense stress to our local community. One in particular, who various organisations can't seem to agree which organisation is responsible for enforcing his bail conditions, and these bail conditions are serious offences against women and children in my community. These people are also connected to a property on St John's, the whole lot of them, which helps supply them all with alcohol, which is against most of their bail conditions. Some local children last year in our community have been diagnosed with PTSD, which is absolutely disgusting, in 2022 and 2023. Due to these groups and the trauma of having to be screamed at and shouted at by people that are high on all sorts of alcohol and drugs. These groups are specifically targeting Woolston women, children, youth and our elderly. A group of us within the community have been working on this issue, and our community daily rings kāinga ora's complaint line. We would like to commend at this time Yanni on his positive and respectful relationship in response to the group to the locals. The ways that our group have positively worked to deal with this are as follows. We've been reforming the Business Association, who are meeting next Wednesday with an inspector from the New Zealand Police and the heads of Canterbury Neighbourhood Support on ways they can support our community with the crime, and ways they can work together to keep themselves safe. Dialogue with kāinga ora and housing utahi. The formation of a residents association to support our community. We're working with the lovely Emily from the council to help us support and form these groups. In March, we're trialling a new night market to deter the crime and also to raise our community morale, which is at an all-time low currently. One of my other and shared by my community fears are kāinga ora and housing utahi. Who are they going to put in next? We've still got empty homes. Kāinga ora's area manager response to our community concerns and the safety and the threats to our lives. I myself have been threatened multiple times by a certain individual that they don't care. She pretty much sent an email back to a woman that was representing us and said, we can keep complaining, but she's not going to move these people out of our community. And as a teacher, I've got to point out that Woolston has more primary schools than any other suburb in Christchurch. We've got a lot of preschools, and we can't have children in our community. We can't have our elderly being afraid to be in the shops. We can't have them afraid in their homes. Sorry, what was I up to? And I'm also been made aware that there's a large boarding house here in Christchurch that houses 80 men that are ex-prisoners. Some of those men have had small offences, but most of them had serious offences against women and children, and they have just been given their orders that that building is going to be sold And those organisations that have been causing our community trouble are the ones that are going to have to help house them. There's a big concern they'll be coming to our community. We've already got dealing with these people, like, and you know, are they going to put more of these men in our community? I asked that the community board and their professional capacity work with our community with these goals. We deserve people we deserve professionalism and people that are dedicated to our people, regardless of similar or different various belief systems. You
were just coming to the end of your time.
Yeah.
I'll just give you a few more.
Cool. The well-being of these children needs to be in the forefront of everything. That's literally the community feeling is that our elderly and our children should be at the forefront of these thoughts. Their well-being has to be protected. We're not getting answered with 111 calls. And I know for a fact that other communities around the city are exaggerating their 111 calls so they get responses. Meanwhile, last week I rang the police on two different sets of individuals threatening our community. One couple in particular were kicked out of Brighton, had a knife, and the police response was they weren't coming to our call with those dangerous individuals because, and I quote, they were going to the next call because it might be more life or death.
All right, thank you very much for coming to the board. And you know, if anybody else has similar concerns, you're welcome to encourage them to come to us too.
Yeah.
We've got another public forum now, so we have to invite Joe Davies to come up. But thanks for your time, and we'll discuss some of what you've raised, which is very concerning as a board a bit later in the meeting. Right.
Right, kia ora. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, board members, for having me today.
5 minutes, including questions, Joe.
Sure. So my name is Joe Davies, and I'm a councillor for the North East Christchurch constituency on the Canterbury Regional Council. And we can see here our brand.
Need to get the slide show up.
Certainly. I've been doing a community outreach program across the constituency, and since I've been elected, I thought it'd be good to touch base with the community board, as you are the grassroots chamber of our democracy and
I like that.
eyes and ears of our community. So this is, I'll just go back a slide.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's my fault. Just tell me when to.
So we're legally called the Canterbury Regional Council. Brand name Environment Canterbury. ECAN is the truncated version of the brand name. Next slide, please. This is our home. This is our motherboard, 200 Tuam Street. The photo is taken from the 60 bus in the bus interchange, which symbolically is 40% of our annual budget is in public transport. And as you can imagine, the lion's share of that is within Christchurch and Greater Christchurch area. We have around 650 staff at this building and approximately 150 in the rest of Canterbury. Next slide, please. So Canterbury is the largest region in New Zealand. We have 650,000 people. You can see here some figures and some numbers around the region. And as you'll all know, it's a wonderful place to live. The Regional Council is a legal body. We function within the Local Government Act. We're an environmental regulatory body predominantly. And yeah, next slide, please. This is the local government situation within the region. We are made up of 10 territorial authorities. Christchurch City, which you guys obviously are a part of, are our superpower. You are by far and away the largest TA within the region. The mid-powers are the likes of Selwyn District, which we can see this blue district here. This is the fastest growing district in New Zealand. Waimakariri is also very fast growing. And then we have our mid-powers right down to our smallest population base, Kaikoura, with approximately 4,000 ratepayers. And Waitaki, interestingly, is actually split between the Otago Regional Council with this eastern section and Canterbury here with this western section. Next slide, please. Unlike the city, who elect their mayor via the ballot box or the envelope, we have quite an interesting situation whereby we as councillors elect our chair, the leader of Canterbury, and in the remarkable situation of 2022, we had an 8-8 split, and our standing orders in the local government stipulate that the chair was then decided through a coin toss, through the name being drawn from the hat, and Peter Scott, who represents South Canterbury, a mixed crop farmer from rural New Zealand, became our leader. Next slide, please.
We're going to say unresolved.
This is our leader here, Peter Scott. Here is our deputy, Craig Pooling, who represents West Christchurch. And this is also a very historic term because Tutahonuku, Korako, Nuk Korako, and Yang Cranwell are Ngāi Tahu appointees to the council. We're the first region in New Zealand to have mana whenua representation appointed to local government jurisdiction. Next slide, please. And here we are with our executive leadership team. 1 minute. This is our chief executive, Stephanie. Next slide, please. So what we do, so we have 5 portfolios that correspond to our committee structure within ECAN and also within our annual plan and within our long-term plan and the budgets associated with those plans. Next slide, please. Just in slightly more detail, our bread and butter really is around regulatory management, around regional planning. We're big on plans. We make regional strategic plans across various different things, including water, waste management, public transport, and yes, civil defence is also an area that we are massively involved in. Next slide, please. $266 million annual operating budget for this financial year. And as we can see, and as I said earlier, $114 million of that goes on to public transport. Next slide, please.
Right. We'll just ask you to bring your presentation to a close, and just be assured that we will be arranging as a board to meet with you and the other councillors that represent our board area.
Awesome. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, board members.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe. All right. And I believe that we do have a last minute public forum with Nora Southern wanting to talk about just briefly to the Minchin Street parking changes. Can I invite Nora to come? Nora, if you, I understand you have something brief you wanted to say about the Minchin Street. You're welcome to join us at the table for 5 minutes.
My name is Nora Southorn. I'm a resident at Alpine Village, and my 2 friends here, Carol and Barbara, are here as well. I've lived at Alpine Village for getting on for 6 years, and the shops have been built over the fence from us. You might be aware of, familiar with the new shops, the Preston's Road and the Preston's Park corner there. And it's made a huge difference to the amount of traffic coming down from Preston's Road lights, and north of Preston's Road, the traffic, the speed limit is 40 k's. On our side, Preston's Park Drive, it's still at 50 k's. And there's a lot more pedestrians coming there to the new cafe. It's become very, very busy. And coming out of Alpine on the west gate into Minchin Street, you know, where it's a tiny, smaller street in Christchurch, I think. There's a big white house on the corner of Minchin and Preston's Park Drive. We have to drive out, and you actually have to drive across the cycle lane to be able to see traffic coming either way, either from your left, which was towards the hills, or from your right, down from the lights. And you have to get out across the cycle lane to be able to see. There is a tree on the right on the corner, a small tree, which inhibits the view. It could easily, I wonder somebody hasn't taken an axe to chop it down, because that tree blocks the view completely to the left.
Is that on the
It's on the sort of boom, yeah.
okay, so it's
Further down, there's street parking, and the other trees are further back. But this one tree, and it's smaller than any of the others, is right on the corner of Minchin and Preston's Park Drive. So that is a real hazard. There's an awful lot of people coming and going all the time. And,
was the tree the particular thing you wanted us to
well,
look at?
it's the speed limit.
Speed limit.
And should it be reduced to 40 k's like up the other side?
We can,
There's too much parking, people parking in Minchin Street, and sometimes you can hardly get past. So we need yellow lines along one side of that, right along.
do you support the proposed changes that we're discussing today? The yellow lines?
I support if we could put yellow lines in, yes,
All right.
definitely. And also along behind the shops, there's an exit there and there's big trucks come out of there because they've been delivering stuff. The whole place is a shambles. It's been badly designed, traffic-wise.
Yes, the developer needs to pay for those lines because that was part of the original resource consent.
Okay, well, they should be there, at least along one side. And the other aspect is that there's going to be a community centre along on the other corner behind the rock wall. So that's going to add to it all. So we're told. So
Right. Well,
when they've got the money.
so because this is two things, because this is a public forum, like we can't make any decisions, but what we can do later on in the meeting is ask for more information about the tree and the speed limit and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And secondly, we will be discussing the yellow lines. And so we will take into consideration what you have shared with us. So I do appreciate, and please do encourage anyone, if they do have something like this, they are welcome to come and let the board know.
Yes.
And we're happy to take the information and try and to get the information we need to perhaps make a decision.
Right. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much.
Good stuff if you did that.
Yes.
All right. So that we don't have any more people waiting for a public forum. No. Well, in that case, we will now move on to deputations. Because we've been talking about the Minchin Street. I think we have Kelly Ipala.
She's unwell, so I'm here instead. My name's Sarah, I'm the assistant village manager.
Okay, Sarah, if you're welcome to join us at the table, and the little man can sit on the other seat if he wants to.
And this is Dave, he's the maintenance department.
Oh, no, Dave, would you like to join us too?
Carter, he's not helping at all, but he'll watch.
All right. Right, and this is a deputation, so you have 10 minutes, including question, because this is an item that's on the agenda and you pre-arranged to come along.
Perfect. Okay, well, I'll just get my map. So obviously we've had the issues, as Nora said, with the parking and the access way into Minchin Street. As far as where the shops are, and we love having the shops there, everyone does, it's not that, it's the parking itself. And if we could have yellow lines along the shop side, it would allow the trucks to more easily turn into Minchin Street from the exit. It is a one-way. Currently, if there's a car parked at the end, the closest to the Alpine View Village, they're making the turn but reversing into the gate almost.
So while we've witnessed this, if there's cars parked on both sides, the trucks that do all the deliveries to the shops don't have the turning radius to come around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So they're having to do like multiple turns and getting the, beeping the horns, and a couple of the cars have already been smashed into. And then a couple of the trucks have done a 3-point turn and reversed into our fence, which then knocks all the security gates out and then affects our resident security. But what more concerns us is if the trucks are having to reverse and make these manoeuvres, we've got older ones coming out the pedestrian gate and in their cars, and I just see I can see an accident waiting to happen.
And at the moment, I drove down here the other day. We've got photos, not with us, but when there's cars parked on both sides, if you've got a bigger vehicle, you're driving so carefully to get past in the middle of the road, but you've also got cars on the side, cars on that side. If you had someone coming the other way, quite stuck as to what to actually do. So we would love to see yellow lines down one side. The shop itself has parking, and it's really adequate parking. They've done really well to put in enough parking for the shops that are in there. They're not struggling, they're not overflowing, and they also have parking on Preston's Park Drive itself for cars as well. So along the park and along the shop side as well, and further up into Preston's Park as well. There's plenty of parking. It's not, that parking's not going to see them sort of miss out on any business at all.
No.
But it would certainly help our residents and anyone else coming into the village.
And the cars that are usually parked there are from the corner house, because he keeps his commercial vehicles in his driveway. So he's got no room for his private vehicles. So he will either park them across the footpath, which makes you think there's a car coming out, or he'll park them right next to the corners of our maintenance shed and the turning radius where the truck needs to come out. So if there were yellow lines, it would restrict that parking, and it would be much safer.
So where is the house?
Show you on the map.
Yeah, on the map.
Number 19, it's on the south corner. Yeah, we haven't put the map up on that.
Give me a moment.
So
I had some commercial vehicles in the map that's up there.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
this is where the trucks need to come out. It's one way,
Mhm.
and if someone's parked there, you can't turn around.
No. So the person with the commercial
So you're
vehicle.
saying one side of the road?
Yes,
Do you
I mean-
have lines both?
because
Love both. Would love both.
yeah, so these are all his cars, and sometimes you park on this side as well.
All right, okay, no, that makes
And
sense now.
that's the west gate that north.
Oh, the White House, Gay Jones.
Come in. That's the gate.
It was.
I'm worried.
yeah, it used to
That's the
be.
pedestrian gate. Worried someone's walking there, trucks coming out, cars are.
She's got her own.
Is that what you're looking at there?
Yeah, exactly. So at the moment, there's parking along here, but they're also parking along here, so you can see how it is. when you
So
come
you're not
through.
the lines in there?
Yeah, would love that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, trucks can't turn around, because they have to reverse into there, and they keep hitting the skate.
Yeah.
And that's
Versus the wagon.
that's
I know.
the pedestrian gate to the village.
Oh, yeah, so that's interesting. Yes, now the villages within it.
Have you, just a question from me for I open up to other members. Thank you for responding to my question there. Have you consulted the residents who live along that area about what they think about the proposed depot line changes?
It's only that one house.
There's two.
The other resident is us.
Yeah, so what about the residents of the rest?
So the residents in themselves, everything that I've seen has been that it's email after email that something needs to be done about Minchin Street. Thinking that it's, I guess initially thinking it's something that we can make that decision on, but then obviously we inform it's actually a council decision in the end. But yes, we're working with you guys to try and make it safe and the best result for everyone. That's exactly what we need. Almost, yeah, everything that I've seen has come in, has been, we want changes, we want yellow lines. I haven't seen myself anything other than that, any opposition at all.
We're in our health and safety committee, and we mention it every single month, and we try and monitor to see what's going on, see if there's any accidents here.
Yeah, we did get an email from, some of us did get an email from a resident saying that they didn't think it was necessary, but also that thought that the developer should pay for it, which the developer is will if we make this decision. So that correspondence will be tabled as part of the minutes of this. But we had a question from Greg and then Jan.
With the parking at the moment, you say it's predominantly from the number 19 house. Do your visitors, do your residents park along there, or is it generally packed with closed cars?
For our village itself, we've got inside the village, we've got parking that is public park for the residents and their visitors. So the residents themselves, they've got garages and a driveway that they can fit a car in the garage and on the driveway. The apartments have parking, so we have extra parking.
So there's no requirement for extra parking?
No, we don't see any need for that. We don't see any need that they would need to park out there at all. We have adequate parking in the village. Yeah.
Jan?
Okay, thank you. I was interested to read about the resource consent requiring a certain turning circle and that not being the case. What was there before? Was it just residential houses and?
It was just clear
It's
land.
park.
Right.
Yeah, because it's a new subdivision. It had, so the Mike Greer home that on the corner, that was initially the show home number 19. That was there, and that was it. It was just clear park and signage for advertising for the subdivision.
Right, okay.
So
And
nothing prior to that.
Did Alpine put in submissions to the resource consent or the planning, or?
I would,
For what?
Oh, like, so normally when, like, if something was getting consented, there'd be an opportunity, I presume, sometimes it's limited notification where, you know, you may have been approached for feedback on concerns of the development, and I just was curious if you were involved in that process of being notified. I'm just surprised how this issue could come with
So
such a
that-
new development, like it
Yeah.
seems crazy to me, but obviously we'll ask staff those questions.
Usually it's kind of a corporate.
potentially, and that's the thing,
The curbing they put in on that turn was broken in the first week by the trucks.
Yeah.
So they have to cut across the corner curbing onto the grass to get around that corner.
yeah, potentially they could have come to ask about the resource consent. It wasn't something that Dave and I have come across.
No.
It could have come to
We
the
didn't have
directors
any
potentially, but nothing
any contact.
that
from
was
anyone.
saying. Yeah,
But thank you for bringing that to our
Yeah.
attention, and apologies for those of us who are new to this area.
sorry, yeah,
We're
yeah.
just getting our
Not everyone
orientations
uses it,
to
that's fine.
understand. Cool.
All right, do we have any other questions? We do have staff here for the report, do we?
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you very much for coming to the board.
Thank you.
And we will take all this into consideration when making our decision, which we'll do shortly after we've heard from staff on the report.
Thank you. We really appreciate your time, and we hope for a very safe and happy outcome. So thank you.
Thanks.
Edwin.
Edwin, would you like to join us at the table you can take your report as read. Oh, yes, sorry. You just wait for us to circulate the correspondence that we've had, just so that members have the information. Oh, of course you may. Yes, you're in the public gallery. You don't. We will make the decision shortly.
We were just having
Did you want another copy?
Yeah.
Oh, you've got it there.
I can tell you, Lorna, excuse me, just so you know, there's currently a consultation out to drop the Prestons Park Road in that area that you mentioned to 40 kilometres an hour at the moment. So there's, I think the consultation, is it still open, Rory?
closed under January.
Okay, so they've been, it is in the works, it's being proposed, yeah. Cool, all right.
So as you'll be aware, so we're at item 14, so a new item, tabled correspondence. So an email was sent to a few elected members from local resident Barry Cox in opposition to the staff recommendation. So if you want to take a moment to read it and take that into consideration when the board deliberate and make a decision once Edwin presents his report after this item. But I'll still need a mover and a seconder just to receive that.
Moved by Jackie, seconded by Celeste,
Thank you.
that the board receives the correspondence. All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Right, sorry, Edwin. If you can take your report as read. Do members have any, or is there anything you want to let us know or highlight from your reports?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you for I'm actually inherit this report from another engineer that previously now on another role. So basically I was looking back from that consent, the resource consent is actually not part of the turning movement of the heavy vehicles is not part of the condition of that consent. it's actually drawn out on the plan that there should have a turning path for the vehicles, but apparently the planner actually overlooked the condition, to put that into the condition that they need to have a yellow lines. So basically the plan doesn't actually outline the other side of the curb. So it doesn't, maybe that's why they didn't see, or there's a need for the yellow lines. And maybe that's why the planners have overlooked and not put into the condition as part of the building consent. So that's why this has been missed. But it's actually, the engineers actually found out, oh, because of the swept path, then it's actually required that yellow lines to be put in to make it safer for the truck to turn. And also from the residents there, that they've noticed, the manager have noticed all this difficulty of the heavy vehicles to turn. And that's why we have put in, especially on the south side, where you have, remove all the parkings on the south side, and then allow also on one side, one parking to allow the smooth curve, and we keep the parking, on the other side, 3 parkings to allow the Orion's maintenance, and also, because it is a kind of a slow, and the traffic movement there is not huge, and we thought, the purpose of the no stopping line is for the turning, for the safe turning of the heavy vehicles. In regards to the Barry Cox rejection of the proposal, I can see that maybe his concern is he wants to have parking for the residents, for the visitors, close by to visit. And I can see, in the part, as part of the consent plan of the whole village, there's about 62 parkings available within the properties, and that includes staff parking and visitors. And also they have some parkings available in front of the car garage. Some have single garage and double garage that the visitors might be able to park in front there. So overall, within the villa itself, the village itself, there's plenty of parking available within the site. And there's also Presence Park Drive, there's some parking available there just within the walking distance as well. So just my view is that
Right. Thank you very much.
With the vehicle crossing going in, is that all compliant with the width? Should do. They're saying about the concrete getting broken. I wonder if it should have been wider, or maybe because of the design of the road, they couldn't go wider.
Yeah, it's not my role to comment on that. Yeah, it's part of the asset when they do the driveway. Yeah.
I think Kelly has talked to Mr. Cox. So Kelly, do you have any questions? I can't hear him.
He's having trouble with his
Oh,
microphone. He
really?
messaged me.
All right, he's
on mute.
No, he's
has he sent an email?
It's fine. It's fine.
He's fine. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, just trying to understand, like, if, and again, you may not be able to comment, but if the building was built, the new development was built as per the resource consent plans, what would be different with what's currently there, if anything?
What would be different? In terms
Proposing today, isn't it?
Is it just the yellow lines on the road? So basically the whole thing could have been built and the board would have approved yellow lines before they could build it. Is that the difference? Or is there actually something physical in terms of the design that should have been done by the developer that hasn't been done that's led to this problem?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Just the lines.
That's the line, yes.
It's just the lines.
That's the line, yeah.
And do we know who the commissioner was for the resource consent?
No idea.
Okay.
I think might need to go. I'm not sure I think you can find out the answer to that question, but I'm not sure that I don't think it's helpful.
Well, council has a process of auditing resource consents to try and get continuous improvement. So I do think we should put this forward for an audit, because it does seem an inherently unsatisfactory outcome that the community have to bear the cost of a developer or a consent being issued that has created these safety issues. So I don't want us to lose sight of.
So in terms of
Trying to
process
understand.
though, like how does that audit process, like, is that something that the board would do?
No, the council should do it. The
So
consent-
how do, no, but how do how do we start the process if we wanted to do that?
I think the board just makes a recommendation, noting concern with what's in this report, that we refer it to the chief executive for part of the consenting audit review and ask for what lessons can be learned from it.
Okay, so are you foreshadowing an amendment?
So,
Okay.
because I guess the question for me is how much of this responsibility sits on the developer in terms of what they can do on their land to improve the situation. Is there anything that we've considered that they should do? I mean, I'm not familiar with the site, so I don't know the geographical constraints, but
When they do, before they develop, they usually assign a consultant to do the traffic impact assessment. And as part of that traffic impact assessment, they didn't actually pick up this item as well. So that's why sometimes the planner actually rely on the consultant report, that anything that they found out to be put into the condition, but sometimes they didn't pick up, and the planner also missed that up. So
Right.
sometimes that happens as well. Yeah.
So
sorry, the question is there anything that the developer can do on their own land that would improve the situation in terms of the safety impacts, the crash impacts?
I guess the access ways, they rely that for the deliveries and that.
so can we just like to keep moving on this? Like in some ways it's a bit out of scope, but do we have any questions for Edwin before we talk about it as a board? Joe?
Sorry, the north side with the 16-metre of yellow lines that we're going to put in, does it have to be 16 for a reason, or could you fit an extra car along that side?
16 meters.
On the north side where the trucks come out of the back, it looks like the yellow line extends far beyond the width of the driveway.
So the 16 meters is the one within where they can park. 16 meters is for tree parking. So if we are to extend,
Yeah, I was thinking about
further.
this here.
Yeah.
It seems to go a lot further than the driveway.
Yeah.
Like
So
about two and a
even
half
if we
times that.
remove, maybe make it like 13 meters.
Yeah.
That 3 meters we can't actually fit another car. So that's why
Okay.
we
So
extend
you
it
just-
to allow for 3 parks. Yeah.
I believe that I've got some indication from the public gallery it would be too narrow.
Yeah.
Tim?
I think if the road is complying, it's just the yellow lines which will cost what, $200 to put them in?
Estimated in the report is 400.
And that I believe is going to be borne by the developer.
Yeah.
So
So apart from that, I don't have an issue.
Yes, so because of this, it's not part of the condition in the consent, we cannot actually ask them.
also it's not going to be borne.
No, they may have offered it, but you can't force it.
So
This interpretation and messaging over the last few days on that, from what I forwarded on to you, it's a misinterpretation.
Yeah, they've complied to what they've been told to do.
Or me, either.
okay, so it is a couple of $100 for the council.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Okay. Thanks for clarifying. So bearing in mind we've had had quite a good discussion. Thank you for your fulsome response to our questions. If you'd like to sit back in the gallery now, we'll have a discussion as a board about the decision. I'll say I don't regard this as in itself as a very complicated decision. There's some yellow lines that are needed to make it safer for people, particularly for older, vulnerable residents. I would be happy to move the staff recommendation. and seconded by, it was a very quick draw then. I'll give it to Tim because you put the effort to use your voice. So it's moved from the chair, seconded by Tim. But Yanni has foreshadowed an amendment, so we need to discuss the amendment first.
So can we start with the words for the amendment so everyone
Yeah.
can see?
Yeah, cool. Just that the community board recommends to council that this resource consent application is submitted for the audit process, noting concerns regarding the adequacy of conditions in regards to safety and egress.
Right, we'll just wait and make sure we got that right. And that would become a part A on this report. Do we have a seconder for that amendment? Seconded by Greg. All right. Do we have any further debate? Does anyone want to speak against? Hold on a second. Do you have anyone who wants to speak against this? Because if nobody wants to speak against it, I'm just going to put it.
No, well, I do.
You've already spoken to it though. Oh, no, in debate. That's true. I'll instead of being ruthlessly efficient, I'll let you speak to it. Go for it.
Just to say, as someone who's aware of commercial developments, and like Langdon's Road is a classic example, but there's also been others in my area in terms of Kenaway Industrial Park, where council has a real problem with how it's actually assessing the adequacy of conditions and traffic impacts on local neighbourhoods. And there's been a multiple of plan changes and consents that have been issued where the community actually ends up suffering at while the developer actually gets away with without having to do what they should to make these developments safe. Now, I don't know if that's the case in this particular one, but I do think it's interesting that, retrospectively, we're being asked as a community board to pick up the pieces of a development that should have actually had this addressed at the time. It is completely unacceptable. And the fact that we may have to pay for it, we pay, experts, we pay people to be commissioners, we have hearings panels who are supposed to be trained in this matter. And if we don't learn the lessons from what's happened, where we make mistakes, then I worry that we'll continue to repeat this sort of thing. This is quite a common thing that I've noticed without consenting, as I've read through a number of consent documents where, again, like the assessment of the traffic effects and the impacts just seems to be so light compared to the risk that accrues from the development. And when these things are issued, then we end up in this sort of situation. So, I think it's a real shame for the community to have had to spend time coming to us today, and this should have been dealt with as part of allowing the development. But I think that, ultimately we do need to find a solution, and I'm happy to support what's being put forward. But I do think we need to learn from this so we can try and improve it for other communities.
Right. Thank you, Yanni. So this is just the amendment. Does anyone want to speak against the amendment? No, so I'll put that now. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Against? No. Carried. All right, thank you. So now we'll move on to the substantive. I've moved that. I'm happy to go with what I've already said, and that it's a necessary practical change that I think we all agree with. So I'm going to put that now. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, thank you very much. And we will move on now to 5.1. And I'm sorry for the time it's taken, but we have Rocking Horse Road. I don't believe, thank you, Claire, that we don't believe we have any more any actual physical deputations. So we'll go, we do have a video presentation, which I have to say thank you to Simon Watts on behalf of the South Shore Residents Association for actually going to the effort of making a video for us, which we can now watch. I'll allow the extra minute and 46 seconds, given that he wasn't able to make it. Representatives of the Southern
It's a beautiful place, it's close to the beach, the estuary, and the
Sorry, I
reserve.
can't really hear it.
However,
We're having quite a few technical issues today
right. Primary function of this
with the sound and stuff
is
today.
to provide access to the 7 houses
Very good.
abutted. It is primary access and crucially the South Shore Ski Reserve. It's worth remembering that Rodden Marsh Road is the only road access here to emergency services, unless you're talking about helicopter and medical evacuation. Our problem is that these driveways are very often blocked. It's great during COVID, Christchurch discovered South Shore, and that's wonderful. And they have a right to be there, that's not sort of debated. But it's resulted, as you've seen in a moment, massive traffic and group parking problems here. This photograph is actually slightly out of date. The bus stop used to be here. The developers of this property have somehow managed to get it moved. It's now here with a waiting space, and buses also wait here. That's not the cause of this problem, but it exacerbates its symptoms. Okay, our worry is about accidents waiting to happen. And this is not fantasy. This is the 2013 fire in the South Shore. Can you imagine if you can't get access here? What happens to the reserve, or potentially people on the reserve? Or if there's emergencies in any of these houses and emergency services can't get to those houses. Okay. So am I being a drama queen? What does the problem look like? These are examples. That was 3 weeks only, and they're not exhaustive. I've been quite careful. The photo don't show the number plates. Anyway, that's someone you can see this one. That car is blocking the reserve entrance. This is a different car, and it's partly blocking that driveway there, as well as the reserve entrance. And that's blocking both. It's blocking the reserve entrance. I could carry on. This doesn't happen once a year, once a month, once a week, or even once a day. This is happening multiple times a day. The amount of traffic here, what you can see actually, this Google photo, I've no idea what was taken. Look, someone blocking this driveway as well. This is happening multiple times a day. I've been using SnapSend Solve for the last 10 months, and I got an email back from them a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, saying, don't use this for parking because we can't do anything about it because it's only manned seldom. It's the police that have to deal with it. So I've been wasting my time using SnapSend Solve for parking, even though the app seems to imply it should. So I went to Police 105 on the emergency line. Basically, they're too busy. The numbers are worse in summer, but we have lots of fishermen here in the evenings, and you often get parking down here and across here and across here. So it's great. The South Shore has been discovered, but there are knock-on problems. When these parked car drivers are approached, the drivers are not very friendly. Some of the residents here have actually been threatened, and certainly on the reserve, we get motorcycles actually in the reserve, and it's quite alarming to talk to a young guy with more muscles than I ever had, telling me I don't have the right to tell him where to go, and he knows where I live. And a number of the residents have experiences like that. Anyhow, people are often parked right on the road, so people arrive, can't park, and they have to reverse up to either the Keko or sometime to be able to turn around. So the consultation on this was enormous. We're looking for yellow lines, no stopping, maybe from there, because it moves into Bondi Park across that drive as well. The question about this from this presentation is when are you going to do it? Because we assume you are going to do it. But proactively, this only solves a small part of the problem. Already, there are knock-on implications for the Pakeko, and sometimes mermaid. What is the real answer to allow people from all over Christchurch to see this reserve? Well, we think it's a larger problem. I'm not suggesting these, I'm just pointing out the proactive approach. It might be, as well as this, that part of Rock Walsh Road, maybe even all of Walsh Road, needs to be access restricted to residents and trade access. Others come by bus. I'm not suggesting visitors can't park at the end of the Pakeko. That's sort of the way we need to think. We're going to think about lots of people visiting here. There needs to be more than just the cul-de-sac. Okay, thank you very much for listening. And I'm sorry I can't.
All right. Yeah, I would like it noted. I'm very impressed that it took the time to record a deputation because he wasn't able to be here. That's great. Edwin, I believe this is your one as well. If you'd like to join us at the table, again, you can take the report pretty much as read. I guess I did notice on his picture, leaving aside suggestions that we might want to restrict all traffic and from Rocking Horse Road, and just looking at the sort of the decision we have in front of us, is there any scope to extend the yellow lines a bit to closer to that that we got those two driveway easements? I think one of them's a driveway.
I don't see there's a need for that because of the real purpose of the cul-de-sac is for the turning vehicles to to be able to do a U-turn, and just by removing that bit section that's unnecessary for the residents, and they need parking. Sometimes they need parking as well for the visitors. So that's why I don't think that there's a need for that. To extend it further.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything? I mean, to me, this looks like a pretty straightforward decision where the cul-de-sac where lots of people drive, lots of people park. They shouldn't be parking there, but by putting yellow lines in there, which are
We didn't receive any.
You didn't. That's probably not too relevant for this, but one of the suggestions someone had put in was, is there a possibility of putting a little car park area for visitors into the reserve?
If we put a car park there, then they would defeat the purpose of the U-turn. You mean
onto the reserve, kind of where the toilet is?
You mean within the reserve? That would be parks under parks to decide.
Okay, well, that's just a suggestion.
Yeah, in terms of the decision we have to make today, it's just the yellow lines. If the board was minded to, we could advocate for such a thing. But the decision is just about the lines. Do we have any other further questions of Edwin? Greg.
You said that it was, again, the 8 people consulted about it.
Yeah.
if it's affecting the end of Rocky Horse Road, keep it in place, is there not scope to actually go beyond the immediate house where the plank's going to be?
Usually, yeah, we only consult the owners or residents that is directly in front of their property. If it's on the wider scale, then we would, publish it in a wider scale. But in this instance, it's just within the area. So yeah.
Yeah, the reason I ask is it seems every time we come across something, there's such a small group that's talked to. Yeah, the previous one, there was 8 people questioned, there's hundreds living.
Yeah.
And the last one was a different situation, but here it's just, if there's people parking there, they're now shifting from that point to down the road, which would affect those people again. It's no longer where the yellow lines are currently, but it would be affecting them further down from that.
I assume that the main point of this is that because the cul-de-sac is a turning circle, like there's nothing, as long as people are not parking in front of driveways, but that can happen anywhere. Like the issue is clearing up the turning circle. If that's to shift parking down, as long as they're not parking inappropriately, which parking on a cul-de-sac is, then that's not a problem as such. Yes, it will make it'll make it busier, but the actual problem is that the cul-de-sac is being choked up, and byproduct of that is that people can't get out of there. At least that's my kind of understanding of your logic for the limited scope.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Celeste.
This is probably more a question for you, Paul, but following on from Joe's question, is that something we can request information about as part of this process? Just, I am aware that if there is a number of people coming, then maybe in addition to looking at this particular, whether that overflow parking might end up, we should plan for some of that.
Yeah, I think I'd suggest in members' information exchange, we can just ask for more information at this point. Yeah, because that's really all we're asking for at this stage. We're not asking for any kind of decision. Yanni.
I just wanted to check, when we got the request, I was just a bit concerned about the snaps and salt response. So when did the request first come to the traffic staff at council?
I'm just inherit this report from the previous engineer. So I suppose this is from a hybrid ticket rather than the snap sensor. Yeah.
So
it's different. Yes. I don't know who would deal with this.
Okay.
I might relieve you from that.
But even regardless of the snaps and salt stuff,
yeah.
When did do we know when council first became aware? Like when does the hybrid ticket created? Do you know what month or what year? Or?
If not mistaken, would probably be last year around August.
Right.
I think the Residents Association might have written.
And just the other question I had around consultation is, do we let the local residents association know as well? Do we invite comment from them?
Not normally. Yeah. If only they have a.
Didn't he represent them?
Yeah,
he was from the Residents Association.
No, well, that's why I wasn't sure. Is he a local resident or is he a residents group association person speaking on behalf of the local residents group?
Both.
But
Right.
Here we go. I'm not sure it's a question to start.
That's good for us to.
Well, no, because we used to have a policy where we would actually consult residents groups on things like this. So
I thought that was part of it, policy as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I assume that that was part of this process. But I'm assuming it's not.
We deal with this. I guess it's a small project that we don't normally consult them. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, but it's good in this instance that the Residents Association's been involved. All right. Well, thank you. Yeah. You've got another report after this, so you're welcome to stay here. But we'll just have a. Is there any? So I'm happy to move the staff recommendation on this again. Seconded by
Take my
it's a
hands
bit
up.
yeah, but you didn't use your voice. Okay, moved by Joe, seconded by Celeste. Any debate? No. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. And we'll just remember to talk about asking for information, members' information exchange. So the next item is item 7, which is the Rudds Road Cypress proposed no stopping restrictions, which I know that has been something that Yanni's been wanting for a while, and that the sports clubs been keen to see. So again, you can take the report as read, but anything you want to draw our attention to?
The only thing is the one submission which is against the proposal. I guess I haven't asked the engineer who wrote the report. So, but my guess is that it's probably affecting the parking that right in front of their property. But I can see that on the side streets, like Cypress Street, there still plenty of parking for them as for their visitors as well. So in terms of the safety, yeah, I think that's the way to go.
And so, this is primarily a safety concern when there's there are a lot of people there during the sports practices and things. All right. Do we have any questions then?
I mean, yeah.
The questions, Yanni?
Yeah. So just in terms of who we engaged with, again, it was just the ones in the immediate vicinity. So the people that live further on down where the closest to the sports fields, none of them would have been.
Just the frontage, of the property.
Yeah, it's just because the problem, well, I mean, I support this, but the residents that were raising concerns were the ones further down as well, because they're the ones driving through here with the traffic and the speed and the visibility. So I think they've generally been quite supportive from my conversations with them. But yeah.
It's one of those situations where we know that there are a bunch of issues and downstream issues, but we can only deal with one issue at a time. So we're dealing with this particular issue here. We're trying to deal with speeding in residential streets in this area with consultation and work that's going on.
Yeah, I understand that. I guess I'm just becoming increasingly concerned that we're not engaging right enough on where people are impacted from some of these changes, or the benefits to the community. So, I think we do need to think about how we are engaging other people.
Not specifically related to this, but I do have concern given some other discussions we've had around the level of communication around changes, including roadworks, which is again something we might want to talk about in Members Information Exchange. But in terms of this precise decision, what is do we have any issues, any questions? Did I see Kelly? Are you waving? No, he's not waving. All right, then. Would someone like to move this up? Pardon?
I'll move it.
Okay. Moved by Tim, seconded by Yanni. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. All right. I will.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you, Edwin, and welcome to this new book area.
Thank you.
I'll just ask if we can have a couple of minutes just for just adjourn for a couple of minutes so that we can have I can get some more water and I can get a drink. So yeah, just a couple of minutes, please.
So Paul, in regards to what the lady was saying for the Alpine View about
All right, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back, Kelly. We now move to item number 10, which is the discretionary response fund application by the Queen's Park Community Trust. Jackie, nice to meet us. I'm sure she'll be here soon. I did say a couple of minutes, so we'll keep trucking. Is there anything you'd like to draw our attention to?
Yes, if you don't mind, should I put this on, Cindy?
Yep.
That one? Okay. Just to say that back in 2021, you'll remember some community meetings that were organised by some community members with support from council staff to raise basically some issues that were occurring in the Parklands Queen's Park community at the time. And we had a couple of meetings, and actually a youth drop-in centre was one of the things that was raised as part of the discussions at those meetings. So it's taken a little bit longer for things to roll into action. COVID obviously part of that, but I think things simmered down for a little bit, but then it kind of bubbled to the surface again. And I think the conversation that had started back in, it was about June 2021, I believe, has continued. And this is where this project has landed, basically. The other thing that I wanted to raise as well is that when we did the youth audit last year, which was about September time, the safety around Parklands Reserve was raised again by the young people. It was about 14 young people that were involved in that youth audit, where we did quite extensive discussions with them around the safety on the park and what things could be improved. And a few things that were raised were parents saying that they weren't happy for their children to be down at the park unsupervised. So this is older children, kind of 10, 12 years plus. So the feeling that they themselves didn't feel happy or safe being in that space because of some of the behaviour of other young people and kind of intimidation type things that occur around the park. And also that perhaps their parents didn't feel safe for them to be down there. So the point with the drop-in centre is it creates a safe space and adult kind of supervising, because the Parkview Lounge oversees that space. And so that if young people were even just down in the park having a good time by themselves, that there's that kind of safe space or safe adult that they could be going to, even if they didn't want to spend the whole time as part of the drop-in session. And just kind of utilising those really great spaces that are on the park, including the basketball court. So I wanted to raise that with you. And really just, I think the collaboration here is a really positive step with Parklands United, who currently, they started a drop-in session on a Friday night in term 4 last year. And that was predominantly a sports session. So but what they were finding is that the young people that were coming to that, they kept it quite informal. So it wasn't about organised sport. And this is very much what the young people are saying. We've got enough organised sport with the clubs that are there. But what they want is that kind of safe space to hang, have some fun, and things not to be too serious and not too competitive. And so that's catering for that need on the Friday night. And they're going to be continuing that in term 1 this year. And that really then this drop-in space will cater for some of those other needs on those other days of the week. Yeah, but happy to take questions.
This is really cool. I was aware of some of the challenges there through my work, and my colleague at that first big meeting, so it's really cool to see that happen. I'm very happy to support the application. Does anybody else have any?
Just a clarification, this is for a year?
No, this is for the period through until end of August. And discussion with the group was that they'd look to put in a Strengthening Communities funding application. But very much this is a trial opportunity. And we had looked at other ways that it could be funded, but we thought this was the best option to come to the board at this point through the discretionary response fund, and then come back and put an application for Strengthening Communities. So that would start them through
About
from
50 afternoons, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yanni?
I just want to check. I guess the one concern I've got, I don't have concerns with the project per se, but I do have concerns with the quantum of money from our discretionary, given it's probably about a fifth of the budget in one application. So is there, I mean, in the past, council had other pools of fund centrally that council would put into sort of like social initiatives and communities that had issues. We've seen like the Central City, for example, got a whole bunch of operational funding to address safety issues. Is there any other funding that we've sought through council to support this?
When we had discussions with the team, we thought that this was the most appropriate fund for a local project. Certainly there's no other metro funds that are appropriate for this. Certainly we've talked to them about other funding options, so that they're approaching RATA, as you'll see within the application, and they're looking also at other funding. Yeah. But no other council funding. This was the most appropriate.
Okay, so I mean, maybe the board could raise it. I know Celeste and Isaac are better off funding together with safety initiatives in the eastern areas, but
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally think this is great because I'm aware of the background and some of this is a sort of a thing that has taken a long time to get to this point. There's been a huge amount of work that's gone into it, and with a bit of funding that's been allocated just slightly different to this, that would fall within the scope anyway. So I think we've got an opportunity here to respond to an identified community need. Youth issues have been a particularly strong theme in this area. So having got to a point where you've got such a strong collaboration and there's something really practical being delivered, I'm very supportive and I'm aware that they're also looking at other sources of funding as well. So I think, you know, this would be a really worthwhile thing to support. So I think sort of all people involved for getting it to this point.
Great.
It says here about 2 afternoons a week. Do you know roughly what the hours they're looking to operate throughout?
3 through to about 5:30, and then there's some setup and pack down time either side of that as well. And then there's also some additional hours that aren't factored into the drop-in sessions where the youth worker, who's got about 8 years experience working in this community, will do some follow-up with the young people as well and their families. So I think that it's going a little bit deeper, and as part of that, also working with the young people to maybe connect them with other services in the community. So as I said, this is a trial. It might be that there's some tweaking that goes on with the hours to respond to the needs, but it's just around really kind of testing the waters with the young people.
Yeah, I was just concerned that it's going to go through winter and if it's going to go too late, it's going to be completely defeating the purpose. But even the shorter hours through the shorter daylight hours, it's a good option.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Jo?
And can we just ask, maybe that we get a report of how they've been at the end of this trial?
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, would somebody like to move by Celeste? Seconded by Greg. All right. Does anybody want to? Do you want to speak to it, Celeste, as a mover?
Sure. I mean, it's probably more of your opinion what I've said, but I think this is a fantastic initiative. I mean, it's reflecting a community need that's been identified and it's been led, and this is about making sure that we're supporting youth, and that's been a very topical issue in Parklands in particular. So it's not something that's come out of nowhere. There have been community meetings and workshops. There's been a lot of work. So what we're seeing is actually an opportunity to support something that will make, hopefully, I think, a big difference in the area. And as is being said, it's a trial, so we've got an opportunity to see if any improvements need to be made. But I think we missed opportunity for the sports today. So I'm very pleased to see it come to the board and very supportive.
Anyone want to speak against? No. Well, in that case, I will put it. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jackie. The next item, I suspect this will be quite quick. Really, the decision is: do we want to support the Christchurch person who's put their name forward for the Community Board Executive Committee, which is Simon from Waipapa, or do we want to support someone else?
When I read this, I thought, why should we support a local person because they're local? And I thought Ross Munro's probably got no show of getting in. He lives in Pleasant Point. Is that a good reason to vote for him? I don't know who they are. Anyone know who they are?
Well, I guess that's also part of it, is that we do know Simon. Simon's an experienced community board member, and he I would like to support him.
Okay.
Does anybody have a question or differing view? Yeah.
Yeah, again, I just wondered, like a bit like Tim's point, but are we trying to support gender or diverse representation on the street? And if so, what assessment has been done around what that might look like if we were to support any of the candidates?
Well, I guess we have the information that we have, and the names that we have and the background we have, and they will be the same information that most people, community boards have. And I'm on that basis, I'm happy to support Simon. But I think we can't delay this decision. We either vote now or we don't get a vote. That's the so I'm happy to move that we support Simon. Seconded by Joe. Is there any debate? No debate. Put that now. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried.
Do you want that noted?
Yeah.
Ryan?
Yeah,
So don't abstain. All right. So, sorry, didn't call for abstention, so that's noted. Yeah, abstaining. All right. So the next item is the your report, Chris.
Yeah, conscious of time and no doubt you have plenty of information exchange. So I'll take the report as read. There's just a couple of consultations noted in the report that Cindy's handily written a note for me. So the board just need to discuss and decide whether you would like to make a submission on the Waitai Christchurch Urban Forest Plan, which closes on the 26th of February, and the draft waste management and minimisation bylaw. So that will be for the submissions committee, so not for councillors. And Cindy's sort of put a proposed or tentative date for that meeting of the 20th of February.
February.
I know it's not for council, but can we make some comments for the waste minimisation?
So my understanding is you could make them to your board members outside of it and as a view, but because you're a decision maker, you can't really submit to yourself.
Yeah, it's the whole kind of two bites of the cherry thing. Yeah. I was going to say, look, I on these two plans, like I think I was really impressed with the urban forest plan, and using the recession plane idea to try and get the maximum amount of trees that we can. Without blocking people's sun, all that kind of thing. And I'm personally quite happy with the way it is. There might be some things surrounding it that be approved, but in terms of the approach to trees, the draft management and minimisation law, bylaw, I think there's quite a lot to consider in that, and I would quite like the board to make a submission on that.
Yeah.
Joe.
Yeah, I think we should make submissions on both. Like we can localise some of the aspects of the tree policy as well, just to highlight things that go on in our ward.
I'm happy either way. I just particularly I have some questions around the waste management one. Yanni, remembering you're a decision maker.
Yeah, I just wanted to check on the urban forest one. Just the board is supposed to be briefed by the staff on what's happening with trees within the board's area. That was part of the tree policy that we've approved, and it was a recommendation, and we still haven't had that yet. Do you know have we got any idea when we're actually going to be briefed? Because I see the media, getting information, and the community boards have no information, and I think it might be quite useful.
I'm not sure about a local version, but there's been a combined board briefing already on the urban plan.
Yeah, this is different. This is the resolutions that were passed as part of the tree policy, requiring staff to report to community boards on an annual basis about what was happening with trees within the board's area, like removals, plantings, net increase, net decrease, etc.
Well, I'm aware, but we can.
Yeah, there was mention of them coming down to see us locally and talk about the trees in our areas, because I had questions about the trees at QE2, whether they were going to replace the ones, and they said, well, we will be coming down to see each board.
That arise from the combined board briefing.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah,
we
they
are
said
in
they were going to
we're in the
come to
process
you.
of working with staff in the parks unit, but I can also talk to the arborist that spoke at that briefing, just to see if they can come along at the same time as parks and talk about that too.
Yeah. That would be really good. Yeah. Yeah. When I first got involved in local body, the seasoned veterans said, just don't say anything about trees. Everybody's got an opinion about trees.
Yeah.
Tim.
I was just going to say that when I read that second one, I was thinking $20,000 fine for one of my delivery kids putting one of my flyers in someone's letterbox. I think it's silly beggars. So we need a bit of discussion on it.
I have some bit of rights concerns around that stuff too, which is what I was thinking. Okay, well then if we resolve that the board makes submission on both of those things, then the problem with the urban forest plans, it closes on 26th of February, so it would have to be a pretty slick one. We would probably have to do that one electronically, I think.
That's why I proposed the 20th of
The 20th of February.
February. So
What day of the week is it?
Monday.
At 3:30 in this room. So the intent will be to go through both of the submission documents. I'll have a submission template ready to go on the screen, and we will type up bullet points and the occasional paragraph depending on which way we're going with it. And then following that, we'll have a few days turnaround. So I think the 26th is a Saturday. So just as long as by the time Friday comes around, we're tidying it up and email exchange, the final submission should be good to go by the Friday afternoon, which meets the Saturday deadline. So
Sounds good.
that's the earliest but the latest in which the submissions committee can be convened for that purpose.
So do we need to resolve any of these things?
Well, previously the board resolved at its annual committee 10 when we established the meeting structure that submission committee dates could be discussed and approved by the governance manager and the board chair. So officially a resolution isn't needed. However, I would ideally like a good steer that the 6 councillor members are happy to make a submission on those two topics, so I can create the advert, get the meeting set up, etc.
So just that the board, or you can just note that the non-councillor members agreed to make submissions on those two things, and we'll convene a submissions committee on the 20th of February.
I'll just note my apologies now that I'm in the
Yeah, all right.
So you will be
an apology.
an apology absent. Okay.
And I'm happy with that.
All right.
3:30.
Yeah, 3:30. All right. Thank you, everyone. Next and final item is elected members information exchange. We have a few things that have been foreshadowed. Was that you, Kelly?
Oh, I think I fixed my microphone, but
hello.
Finally. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Now, well, since you have the microphone, do you have any items for members information exchange?
No, not really. Yeah, I'd rather kind of do it in person. It's actually, a little bit better that way.
Yeah, no worries. So we
can wait.
So we had Yanni and Jackie and Alex and Joan.
So this was going to be part of the aerial report to get some resolutions around the whole Wolston safety issue, because it's like a clear need to bring for the board, I think, to facilitate bringing the police, Kainga Ora, MSD, like that New Brighton group, but we need something similar for Wolston urgently, because it's clear that all the different agencies are not working together, and people are getting really frustrated that, you know, they bring the police, they bring corrections, they bring Kainga Ora, and they just feel like they're getting pushed and pulled in 100 different directions. But the reality is that what's happening in Wolston Village is completely unacceptable, and it needs a much more urgent response. And you know, it's really frustrating that the central city gets such a huge focus when similar things are happening in our suburbs, and we have to fight for months and months and months to get them, you know, taken seriously and to get the resource. There's two things that occur to me with Wilson. One is we need to get, and I think like the New Brighton one, and I've put this through the board previously, it seems like a really good idea to have a regular forum of the government agencies and the council/community board to discuss through what's being done to actually address the situation. And so I'm open to the wording that staff might think is best appropriate to enable that, or happy to propose something. And then the second thing is, to me, what's really clear with, you know, and thanks to the board for bringing in temporary alcohol ban and the work that's been done on that. But, you know, people are frustrated that the police are not responding. And I think the reality is that relying on police in Littleton or New Brighton to come into Wolston is just totally insufficient. And I think the board should actually be writing to the Minister of Police, the Regional Police Commissioner and the National Police Commissioner, seeking a permanent police station in Wolston.
Before we comment on that, obviously Wolston's very close to my heart, and I would like to know, like Emily, you've been just having some discussions would you like to come to the table? So you've been having some discussions about stuff that's been happening in Wolston. Is there anything you think we should know in this discussion?
So I think everyone has a pretty clear idea of what's going on, and it's not the only suburb in Christchurch, obviously, where this is happening. So the crime stuff, obviously, that's a policing issue. So from you guys' point of view, that is working with the MP, advocating for more resources to be put into that area. From a community development point of view, I can work with the community to put more positive stuff, activities in those areas that have been hit by kind of a lot of crime, and then hopefully discourage the antisocial behaviour. So there's lots of ideas on the table at the moment. It does take time and energy to work with community to get that going. It's not going to happen overnight, but the Residents Association is the first kind of ticket off the bus kind of thing to set that up so that the community can meet regularly and discuss ideas for solutions. I don't see the benefit in meeting again and talking about all of the issues. Everybody knows them. So now it's about what can community do to try and solve these issues or mitigate them.
And I question around whether there is scope to get the organisations and agencies together to make sure that we're all communicating with each other. If we, being the community board and you guys can to try and facilitate that kind of discussion, so that to make sure that there is that communication. You know, I think I support, you know, in terms of writing to the minister and I would like a neighbourhood policing team. And I know that it has been brought up by me and others previously, so I'd like to do that. But in terms of the positive thing, because if you look at the evidence of what does reduce crime, you know, that there's the positive community stuff that is second to kind of active policing. Okay, it just makes such a quick difference.
Yeah, so I mean, she's got heaps and heaps of ideas, and definitely she's linked in with a lot of the businesses. She's actually gone and asked how they feel and what they could do. So the Friday night market's kind of the first idea to try and activate that area behind the shops, to discourage people drinking around behind there and loitering and that kind of thing, and maybe just getting to know them and saying, do you want to come and be a positive part of this community? So it's kind of going to trial that first. A lot of the businesses is, we want to be part of that and have a stall. So that's a starting point. There's ideas around trying to connect in some of the community that are feeling intimidated now with like self-defense classes or English speaking classes. So again, linking in Wolston Library. So like heaps of ideas, but again, it starts with a meeting with the businesses, I believe on the 15th. And then we hope the following week to have a meeting, sort of like a first Residents Association meeting. And then from then invite Kangora to come and be part of that and all the different agencies. So we start linking in them. Similar to what we did in with New Brighton. New Brighton's kind of, because the community have already set up that wellbeing meeting, they're already kind of further down the path, whereas Wilson's just at the start of that process. So they're kind of like there at the minute.
Yeah, and I guess, weaving all those connections together is a long-term project.
Yeah. But it took the wellbeing committee kind of 6 months, I guess, before they've actually started to do stuff, whereas they used to meet monthly and just talk about some of the issues. Now they're actually getting to the point where they're having some action. So yeah, again, it does take that little bit of time to get people involved to actually want to do stuff and activate rather than just have a moan about what's going on.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you.
Can I just make a comment on what Yanni said about the police?
Yeah.
Because we've got the station here and we never see them, and people have trouble actually contacting them and getting them to come out to actually report.
Do they come from Littleton as well?
Pardon?
No, Brighton.
From Brighton.
They're just like
Brighton
like a
station,
K
but we
away.
can't get hold of them.
Not even a K away.
The police were at the meeting that Trace McCullen called and did explain that they're just so stretched. This isn't something they can help with. So again, it comes down to community having to put on positive things. I don't think, definitely make the police aware, and we're encouraging people to use the 10-5 number, but that is a difficult process. But it's catch-22, it's but the police are really struggling as well. So it's
Well, there is a big boost of police recruitment and numbers. It takes a while to filter through.
Yeah.
And this has been, there's been chronic underfunding, and the police have been stretched more thinly and more thinly. And it's just, it requires, again, it's going to take a while for that to filter through.
And I think, like New Brighton, there's kind of fingers pointed at it's Kyangora's fault or it's police's fault for not doing it. And it's actually, let's get those people together and then have an understanding, a bit of empathy for all of the different agencies who are all struggling and all under-resourced.
Also, there's a kind of policy of putting all the people with really high needs into poorer areas and then letting the community pick up the pieces. And so Kaingaora is building zillions of houses, like intensive houses in Woolston at the moment. And I see that they were upset that the identification didn't go through because they had a big development planned. So these communities are actually changing fundamentally in terms of the demographics, which mean they actually require additional resources to deal with the needs that are put on the community. And this is probably the frustration, is that is exactly what happened in Phillipstown too with emergency accommodation. So I think the board does have a role to try and meet with the police and across units, like corrections as well, and probation, because like some of the stuff we heard with, like people are really concerned that the agencies aren't even talking to each other. And this is quite extreme behaviour. This isn't like, it's death threats and people being ejected.
And I guess, we do have a role in trying to cross-pollinate and see if make sure that we're doing our bit to make sure everyone's talking to each other. But that what the police do is what the police do, and what corrections does is what corrections does. And have sort of some insight into that correction system. And there are, every community in Christchurch has people on probation. And most of us will have neighbours who are on some kind of probation, So, and if people knew how many people there were out there, I think they'd kind of realise that there's only a handful of people that are on probation that are causing issues. But unfortunately, it does seem to have taken quite an uptick in Austin recently.
Yeah, you can look at the combination of very deliberate decisions by central government that have led to this, which is emergency accommodation, intensifying of social community housing, and not the right adequate resource from either police or mental health or drug and alcohol.
To be fair, there was no emergency accommodation before. There was just homelessness. There was people living. Like I used to work in housing, and people living in cars and stuff. There's less of that. But when you concentrate it all in somewhere like in our community, it creates downstream effects. So I guess my view is, we need to focus on supporting those people and supporting the community to make it better for everyone. I guess I'm a bit torn. Everybody needs somewhere to live, and if there's quite a mixed response around what Kainga Ora is. So people who've called Kainga Ora, some people report that people have done a really good job, and that the tenancy managers have been really good at case managers have been really good, and other people haven't had the same experience. So I guess it's like calling the police. It's quite a mixed bag. So to try and get some kind of in this case, all the Woolston people together, would be really good.
It's just a collaboration rather than everybody blaming everyone else. That's what happens. Which is where we're at New Brighton at the moment. And again, we just got to get Woolston up to that point.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, I'll be enough.
So can we note, so Yanni, you've sent through. So Yanni is, would you like to move these, Yanni?
Yeah.
So noting the increased antisocial behaviour concerns raised by the community and the frustration in regards to various agencies not working together, that the board urgently establish a regular forum with relevant central government agencies to discuss practical solutions, and B, noting the concern of the lack of local police presence in Woolston, and the community would write to the Minister of Police, local MP, and national and regional police commissioners seeking establishment of a permanent police station and a neighbourhood policing team in Woolston. I guess I would, so I'm happy enough to support those. I'd suggest copying in the local MP. So the local MP doesn't make any decisions around policing.
I'm happy for them to be wordsmith.
And I can suggest that the board work with staff to establish, rather than the board set up a meeting.
So the board work with staff to establish. You know, and I would sort of emphasise that we're not Batman. We have a important but limited role, and we're not crime fighting. We can, I think it's, as you know, I really believe strongly in community boards and the role that we can play. But really, just bear in mind that we don't want to promise to do things we can't do. And I think this is good, Yanni. So I'm happy to second that.
And I mean, do you want to just acknowledge the work that Emily's been doing around setting up a residents association and business association as well? Or
I hope that you know, Emily, we're very grateful for the work that you've been doing.
Yeah, well, I mean,
It's coming from Claire, I'm just helping her.
Yeah, but yeah, it is good. I mean, you know.
Well, I'm happy to add, and you as the mover, if you're happy to add, note the board notes with gratitude the excellent work that staff have been doing to begin this process.
Or to take a community development approach.
Gratitude, the work that staff have been doing in community development.
Can I change it a little bit?
Yes.
Noting the concern at the lack of the local police presence in Woolston.
I haven't finished.
No, I am that. I think that's what you might, and not pejoratively, but an unfriendly amendment, and that's changing the intent of the motion, which was about Woolston. Happy to go to you after this to talk about New Brighton. 6:30 is when we need to end. So yeah, so obviously we had a public forum attendee where this has been raised. So I think justifiable we spent that time, but we'll try to discuss a few more things. But I can't put that until it's on the board and you can see it. Yeah, we'll go to Joe and we'll. Jackie? Sorry, Joe, I had Jackie on the speaker.
I would like the board to, I want to acknowledge that Cindy has done some work for us in this area and we've had a reply, but we have had now at least 3 circumstances where we've had residents not being notified of major roadworks and road closures, and whereby the notification has been inadequate. And I do acknowledge we have had a reply to say, oh, well, they only go 100 metres down the road or whatever. But for those of you who have seen the Richardson Terrace photographs, the signs are not the same. Some of the residents don't even see a sign, and there has been 0 mailbox delivery to those people. So we have people in Richardson Terrace who do not know whether the road is closing at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. And some of those people, if they're entering from Mackenzie Ave, won't even get to see a sign, so they may not even know that the road is closing at all. 100 metres down a cul-de-sac, when that's the only way in or out, but not actually telling people 200 metres down the cul-de-sac that the road will be closed is inadequate. And obviously not allowing emergency services access to information about road closures that will affect them. So I would like us to, I think kind of know his intention, because I want him to write a letter. Yeah.
Can I jump in there as well, just talking about another street that's done?
I think it's a general, consensus, and when it comes to Paul actually writing a letter on behalf of the board, we can actually itemise all of our concerns. But in terms of time, I just want an agreement that we can write a letter, and then we can submit all the individual things for us to itemise in that letter. Another thing is expecting residents to get up before 6 a.m. and move their cars to a side street that's at least a block away is a little bit unrealistic. We're talking about Woolston. If I have to get up at 5:30 and move my car on Monday, I will. Okay, and there are plenty of people on Richardson Terrace that will, but there's very few people in Woolston that will be prepared to move their car a block away from their residence overnight, given that we have car break-ins every night. Right? So what my request is, can we write a letter to the people to whoever it is, and actually say, okay, you said that you're doing this, but this is not what's happening. And I have rung the phone number on the signs, not had a reply. I've rung it 20 times. It goes to, it's called forward, it's never answered. I've left messages, I've had no response.
So following our email exchanges, I'm sure you guys weren't that grateful for my response. I have since been liaising with staff, and I have sent them a copy of every single email from all of you. So they're just working on a formal response back to the community board in relation to each of those issues. Once that's signed off, I will share that with you. So I think your request at the moment isn't necessary, because I've had a rethink and I've gone back and I've asked, okay, so I've had lots of
So
queries.
let's wait for that response.
So let's wait for that response and then go from there. Some of it still might be the same as what was received before, but some of the more specific areas may have different responses.
So I just want to cover, thank you, Cindy, and I appreciate that you can, just to remind me that Cindy can only give us the information that she is given. With, you give us the information without comment, and appreciate that the additional work you're doing following up. Just to cover something off, we'll come back, is that on the stuff that we have made a resolution about, we can't actually make resolutions. We can make requests for information in members' information exchange. So what we'll do is, as part of the board area report, we'll just go back and pass, I will put those motions about Woolston and that, and ask for a seconder. I'll ask that Yanni put. Yanni moved. Yanni moved. I seconded. So I'm just going to put that now. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. So what we'll do now is go into members' information exchange again. We're going to go to Joe, and then we'll go to you, Alex. Yes. And then to Celeste, and then to Greg, bearing in mind that staff need to be out of here by 7, and we should try and finish by 6:30 if we can. Joe.
Okay, so there's a few things been happening lately with the community events and everything happening. South Shore have got the Godwit Hunt on presently. You may want to go.
Is there any request for information first?
I'll request for information.
Anything in terms of members' information that we need to ask for information from?
Well, I was going to bring up about those things that you got mentioned earlier in the meeting. about the tree on the corner in the car park.
Oh, yeah, so can we ask for
Can we have more
information
information on
about the tree on the corner of Minchin Street and Preston's Park
Preston's
Road?
Park?
There's a tree on both sides.
Well, the trees on the corner of those, we can ask whether they're council trees or not.
Some booms that should be.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
confirm
it's just
that.
that they're going to, as she said, they have to go so far out. past the-
No, I'm just trying to think
Yeah.
of, so that's gonna have to go to the street arborist or the city streets arborist rather than parks arborist because it's on a road firm.
Yeah, so we can, because it's members info, we're just asking for information.
Okay, pretty sure the information, can you log a ticket, please? But that's fine,
Yeah.
I will ask.
Right.
And that's with a view to have them removed, just so that it can be all included in the same.
Yeah, all right.
And if we can get information, if it's possible to put the car park onto the.
And also information about, I guess, request information from parks about the possibility of a car park, although I'm not sure I would support a car park in there personally, but I still think we should get the information.
Yeah, we'll just say it's been requested through
It
residents.
was mentioned, but just for clarification, so is it a reserve or is it red zone? Because that
It's
will just,
reserved.
so that would determine who my.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's reserved.
Okay, so
It's reserved. So that's, yeah.
what's the reserve called? Sorry, Joe?
South Shore.
So it will be the split reserve.
Yeah.
Spit reserve. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other requests for info, Joe?
No.
All right, so if we have time, I'll come back for the other stuff, but just because the prime strength, if you like, of the members info is that we can get information that we wouldn't otherwise get.
Jackie.
Huh?
Jackie.
You got a question for Jackie?
Yeah, Jackie.
Yeah.
How's it going, Jackie?
Jackie me or Jackie?
Oh, yeah, sorry. So that was my turn.
Yeah.
Jumping in, cool. QE2 master plan. I got a few questions. I don't know if you'll be able to answer them, but if not, would you just be able to put me an email because I asked about it a few weeks ago. I just think they're back. Do you know, I've had a lot of feedback, messages, emails, and on Facebook about the support to progress the play area proposed in the master plan. So stage one of that playground was in 2019 in the funded section. So I wanted to know if that $200,000 that's allocated to the playground stage one is still in the plan and still allocated. Is there a way to bring forward stage two? And can we progress with any of the stage hours and a delivery timeline on that as well? I'll flip them in the email.
Yeah, no, and I'm sorry, I did read that, it's been a bit chaotic,
Yeah.
tidying up from events. So I suppose whether the board would all like to be bringing this information and we'd like to perhaps, because when we did the bus tour, we talked about maybe getting Parks Unit out to do a bit of an update around what's happening with the master plan. So get the bigger picture perspective. So, you know, we can answer those questions, but perhaps also talk about some of those other things as well.
Okay, if we do both, that'll be handy, just like the residents stuff.
So would you like to maybe formally kind of request that through?
Sorry. In the itemized funding.
Schedule
The
to come around.
Parks Roadshow is on the schedule.
Yeah,
So they are
yeah,
going to be
I'll
coming.
ask
So,
the question,
but,
ask those questions.
I'm happy if we just note that down.
They weren't included in your initial email, those specific questions,
Right,
were they?
okay.
Were they?
Yeah.
I'm asking.
No, I
were
was just
they?
asking what's funded, what's not.
So click through your specific questions.
Yeah.
And we will put them into the organisation and we will let you know.
Yeah.
And I will speak with Parks about including QE2 master
Yeah.
plan on their briefing.
Yeah, because I asked about the timeline.
And when we went for our bus trip, we were asking about the what's been spent of the 4 million.
Okay.
Itemized there.
Put it in the email.
Yeah.
The bus trip was the bus trip.
Yeah.
Yep, right. And I think now it's Celeste and then Greg.
So a couple of things. The first one is around, I'd like to request some information on options to accelerate progress on the automatic section. So as we know, there's quite a bit happening in terms of the master plan work. There's funding going into the top of the month. We're doing a pilot with the Westbank building. So it's just a question of asking for information about how we progress purchasing the other side of the street.
Cindy?
So two things to that. Predominantly, that would be a OCE question, but secondly, just in relation to the funding side of things and bringing things forward, that's not a board decision, that's a council decision. But staff, I have scheduled for staff to come along, and they are due to brief the board on the 23rd of February.
So
So
soon.
that's 2 weeks away.
I actually spoke with staff and they suggested I spoke with Bruce.
Okay.
And his suggestion was that in order for things like the Public Works Act to be looked at, and needs to be put through the board as a formal request, which then comes to council.
Okay.
So he's answered back to here.
Okay, so
In
my,
addition to that,
so my
yeah.
suggestion is, let's have the update, because I'm pretty sure Bruce is invited to the update too, and let the board then make that decision rather than, so they've got all of the information.
I don't think that information is going to cover the RMF extension though. That's a
Well,
separate-
I guess we can,
Yeah.
we can ask, like, through governance staff, we can ask that has that information. Because
Sure.
they've got a couple of weeks, we'll have the information, and then we can
That's fine.
discuss.
So can you just,
because-
can you just flip,
Like you and Emma?
yes, please,
Like-
and I'll add that to my.
because Public Works Act stuff is, Public Works, reason why councils are so reticent to use Public Works Act is because there are so many ways of it going wrong, getting really expensive.
Yeah, we can cover that because we've looked into that recently.
Right, I mean,
Forward to
yeah,
that information.
open to whatever, but just keen for more information.
Absolutely. The second one was a quick one as well, is around the tree removal next to the bowling club at the Keeping Centre. I think there was supposed to be some action taken, so can we get a report on what the next steps are? So that's the request to get the trees on the
So was that a
mountains.
board resolution?
No, so staff were working with the bowling club, and it was left with the bowling club a possible solution. I can't recall what the solution was at the top of my head, but the bowling club, they didn't have a consensus, so they could go back to the arborist to say, okay, we prefer this plan over this plan. So I'm pretty sure there was there was lack of communication between the club and the arborist. The arborist is on leave at the moment, but I can chase to see where they're up with that.
It'd be good to then just have a report back on when that's going to. We're meeting with the Keeping Centre tomorrow. But I think
I won't be able to get it to you.
Oh, no,
he's on
it's
leave.
by tomorrow, but I'll just let you know we've requested information.
We'll just ask for an update from the arborist.
Yeah.
So it's the bowling club next to the potato stand.
That's right.
Yeah, well, we can just note that one down.
And the other part of that is around the maintenance of Arthur Adcock Park, just getting an update on that as well. Be the second part.
What type of update do you want on after Adcock?
There's been a number of requests put through, and most specification, sort of a request for services to be delivered in terms of clearing the out from the pond and other things. And I think that there's some of the residents feel like that hasn't been followed through on. So we just want to know what the actions have been taken from the last lot of requests that have gone through.
So there's been a request for service.
Yeah.
So do you have the ticket number?
There
I can
was a
pull that
big
through.
response that went back, especially in relation to Arthur Adcock. And this time of year with sun and the algae and things grow and things. So some
We can
people it's
find that memo.
perception, but I'll find the memo because I'm pretty sure that is a catch-all answer of what they are doing, what they do, and what they can't do during to what's growing and what time of year it is.
Because it's been, it was asked for and it's been responded to.
It's been responded to, I think, the question, and we can maybe follow up after the meeting, but the question is whether it's been sufficient level of service based on what was agreed. So we'll touch base again after the meeting tomorrow.
Cool.
That's it for me.
All right, I'll go last one, go to Greg.
So I'll be quick. I've already seen through something regarding the Preston Parks exit. I was looking through and the upgrade from Maryhill Road was still listed in the next year's budget. Just wanted to know if we get an update of what dates or what timeframes that upgrade of that road will be.
That would be dependent on the
Annual plan.
decision.
It was still in the annual plan in the budget at that
Yeah.
point.
But so it'll be in the draft.
Oh, the draft, yeah.
But if it's in the next financial year, it will depend on what's signed off and adopted in the annual plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
So so until it's adopted, it's hypothetical, Yeah.
So a quick comment.
Yep.
9 years on the board, I'm very impressed with this board. Well done, everybody.
Thanks, Tim.
We're speechless.
And Jackie, did you have anything else? All right, cool. All right, thank you, everyone. I will kind of care whakamutanga, and then we'll let everybody go home, or whatever your next meeting is.
I apologise, I haven't got them up on the screen.
That's all right.
Closing around me.
I will read it, and if anybody wants to join it, then you're welcome. Una here, ki te uru takanui, kia wātia, kia mama, te nāko, te tinana, te wairua I te ara takata, koe rā I rongo, whakairia a kia ringrunga, kia tina, uie, kai kia.